Halloween is a 1978 slasher film directed by John Carpenter. The film became a huge commercial success and launched Carpenter's career as a master of horror. Laurie Strode is a babysitter who on Halloween night is stalked by Michael Myers. The film stars Jamie Lee Curtis. Howdy, folks. Welcome back to Garage Slasher-thon. I was about to say Vampire-thon out of Creature of Habit. Garage Slasher-thon. Every day for the month of October, we revisit a slasher movie. Today, we're talking about the original Halloween, directed by John Carpenter. I will say up front, I've never seen any of the Halloween sequels except Halloween 2 and 3. I've never seen the one with LL Cool J. I've never seen the remakes by Rob Zombie. I've never seen the remakes by Danny McBride and David Gordon Green. No interest. After the third one, I was like, okay, I'm done. And I've never bothered to see any of the subsequent Halloween movies. It's a simple concept. It doesn't merit going back to the well so many times. With something like A Nightmare on Elm Street, I can kind of get it. It's a cool world. Halloween, it's very straightforward. I don't understand how they've made like 7 sequels and 12 remakes. It really doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it does make sense, money at the end of the day. It's all about the bottom dollar, but as a viewer, it just doesn't interest me. I will say as well, this isn't my favorite John Carpenter movie. A lot of people will say this is his best. I've got plenty of others that I prefer. I prefer The Thing, obviously, They Live, Escape from New York. But what this one does better than all of those is it's a really restrained movie. It really shows that even with the budget of a fart, John Carpenter can really make a good movie. I'm sure you guys already know, but when John Carpenter first made this Halloween movie, he wanted it to be a series of movies that were kind of like anthology movies. And each one kind of took place on Halloween Day. So he made this one, and then when Halloween 3 came out, I don't think he directed Halloween 3. I think he just produced it, but I might be wrong. But Halloween 3 just has a completely different story, but Halloween 2 has Michael Myers in it. So there's a lot of disagreement over what happened. Basically, when Halloween 1 came out, people were just like, we want more Michael Myers. That guy is awesome. But John Carpenter just wants to make an anthology series. Imagine if that happened with Black Mirror. Imagine if Black Mirror came out, and the first episode of Black Mirror, if you guys don't remember, was the one where the Prime Minister of Britain has to fuck a pig. And then when that episode comes out, they're like, all right, we have a bunch of crazy scientific premises for our anthology series. And everyone's like, no, we want more pig fucking. So then the second episode involves pig fucking, and the third one is pig fucking, and all the episodes of Black Mirror is pig fucking. Then they just change it from Black Mirror to pig fuck. Yeah, I kind of went on a tangent there. But this really doesn't look like its budget. Its budget was super low. Michael Myers' mask is just a mask of William Shatner. They just spray painted it white and called it a day. Everything about this movie is crisp. The cinematography in this movie is so beautiful. It still holds up, even though it was a cheap movie. It looks so beautiful. The screen feels very wide. There's a lot of cool wide shots. The beautiful lighting as well, when scenes in the dark where Michael Myers is popping out of the dark. Really some cool stuff here. The music as well. Music by John Carpenter himself. It's so iconic. It's probably my favorite horror movie soundtrack. Everything about this movie, it's a very crisp movie, and I didn't see the Danny McBride Halloween movies, but it's something I kind of was disinterested in, is that the soundtrack is like very distorted and like intentionally creepy, whereas in this movie the soundtrack is very simple. It's just it's very simple, but in the remake it seems like so I don't like that. And then Michael Myers' mask is just a plain white face and it's very emotionless. And then in the remake, it's got like all this smudge on it and all this dirt and these scars and everything. And it's like just a lot less scary. It's like they're trying a lot more. and getting a lot less in return. Also, just the neighborhood is just a very simple, quiet neighborhood. Michael Myers in the sequels and in the remakes, he lives in a sewer, which is like kind of unnecessary. The less you say about Michael Myers, the creepier it is. And that's kind of what's interesting about this movie. It's kind of like The Thing before The Thing, because when the script was written, Michael Myers wasn't called Michael Myers. He was just called The Shape. And I think John Carpenter thought there was something really creepy about being stalked or being terrorized by something that the human mind just can't comprehend. And I think that's why he did that. And later with The Thing, he kind of expanded upon that. And there's actually an homage to The Thing in this movie where Laurie Strode and the kid she's babysitting are watching a movie, and it's the original The Thing. So I think Carpenter had like an obsession with that thought of what if you're getting stalked by something that's just an unstoppable force, firstly, and then just something that the human mind can't comprehend. And I think that's what makes Michael Myers such an interesting villain, is that he's not even a person. He's just a thing. The kids in this movie feel very real. Jamie Lee Curtis is the main child actor. She was like a teenager. But they feel very real, and sometimes when boomers try to do kids, it just doesn't feel very authentic. The next few movies I'm talking about are gonna tackle that head on. But this movie, just the way the kids interact feel very real. And there's a lot of debate over what this movie is about, really. So the movie opens and Michael Myers is a kid, and he's dressed as a little clown on Halloween Day, and he kills people. So people kind of theorize that Michael Myers was a victim of childhood neglect. And because of that, when he sees that Laurie Strode is not taking her job seriously as a babysitter, he tries to resolve that by killing her. And it's an interesting parallel for sure, because the teens are having sex and smoking weed instead of doing what they should be doing, which is babysitting. But John Carpenter kind of rejected that theory and said that wasn't really what he was going for. The reason why they're having sex and smoking weed is because that's what teenagers do. They have sex and they smoke marijuana. Naughty, naughty, naughty. So yeah, for a movie that's done very on the cheap, this is like as good as it gets. The cinematography is beautiful. The characters feel real. Everything about it is just perfect. The music, everything about it is just so immaculate. And it's crazy because looking back on it, I watched this movie like probably in my teen years, and I probably haven't seen it in a long time. But I always remembered this movie being more violent than it is, which is interesting because it's really not that violent of a movie. There's a lot of suggested gore. There's like one scene in particular where Michael Myers lifts up one of his victims and puts the dagger through his heart and leaves him hanging there. But there's not that much blood in the movie, which is really crazy thought because I think going into the 80s at this point, after Halloween, the movies become increasingly more violent. And it's kind of crazy that Halloween remains like a staple of the slasher genre without showing that much. A lot of it is just suggestion. And I think that's ultimately what makes the first Halloween a masterpiece in horror. Even though it's like not my favorite slasher movie out there, like I do respect it because it's so subtle and because everything is kind of just implied, which is interesting. Again, not my favorite Carpenter movie. Just for the memes, I think I even prefer Christine over this movie, just for shits and giggles, in terms of a fun time. Yeah, it's just like, you watch it and you're like, wow, John Carpenter really knows his shit. I respect that man. And also, every time I do one of these marathons, John Carpenter comes up. Maybe not the zombie one, but definitely when it came to Stephen King, we talked about Christine. And we talked about, sure we did one for, John Carpenter's Vampires as well for Vampire-thon. So always fun to review a good old John Carpenter movie. Guys, have you seen Halloween? I'm sure you have. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Does it hold up? Comment below, let me know, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.